Okay, hi everyone. Thank you for joining me today. I'm very excited to have you all with me. This is a really amazing webinar coming up today. So I'm Stephanie Gellman. I'm manager of our Smart Leads program, and this is I'm not sure, 7th, 8th, maybe 9th webinar in our series about how to work with your online leads. And you can find recordings of all the past webinars on the RLP network under the marketing tab and then Smart Leads. As you know, you can enter questions into the chat at any time. I see a lot of you saying hello. That's fabulous. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Okay, so this is what we're going to talk about in this presentation. I'm going to start with a little bit of an overview of Smart Leads and the kinds of leads you can get from the program, and then we're going to dive right into our guest speakers. So we have 4 today. We have Jimmy, Amber, Justin, and Carol. Each person's going to be speaking for about 10 minutes, and there's going to be a little bit of time for Q&A from the audience. So that's from you guys via the chat after each person speaks. So when I'm on with the speakers, make sure you're throwing your questions in there because we will have to move this webinar along somewhat quickly because of the amount of speakers that we have today. But that being said, don't worry, I'm going to include everyone's contact info. So if you have questions that you want to ask them one-on-one or something that comes to you after the fact, you can reach out to our speakers on your own time. And then I'll wrap up this webinar with a summary about the best practices that you can use when you reach out to your leads. Okay, so first of all, what is Smart Leads? Well, Smart Leads are leads that you get from royallepage.ca. And there's 2 kinds of leads that come from Smart Leads. There are designated leads. These come from your own listings and your agent contact page. Everybody can receive these kinds of leads. Then there are distributed leads. So these ones come from competitor listings, and the lead availability and the volume of these ones will differ regionally. So if you want to participate in the competitor listing leads, you need to talk to your broker or your manager to participate to find out if it's an option in your area. Now, I also want to remind you that there's a lot of other lead generation venues out there, and I want to encourage you to try all of them. You can try door knocking, open houses, new construction leads, as well as hosting and attending events and more. You can bring people to your own website as well. So Royal LePage Smart Leads are just one of many ways you can grow your business. And you want to use leads whether you're new to town, new to the industry, or you're just looking to grow your business. Now, one of the benefits of Smart Leads compared to some other kinds of lead gen, like door knocking, for example, is that these people are coming to you. So they have a certain level of interest. The other really cool benefit is it's an end-to-end management solution. What does that mean? That means every lead that's accepted via Smart Leads goes into your Smart Studio My Book, and then all of those are automatically entered as contacts. You don't need to do manual entry. You get the action plan applied to them. It makes outreach easy. Okay, I want to share some stats with you guys because overall you are crushing the industry average. So what do I mean? The average industry close rate for online leads is 1% or less. The average Royal LePage brokerage close rate is sitting at 4.3%, which is fabulous. Give yourselves a hand. And just so you know, year over year, we have increased the percent of leads going to our agents by 17.5%. And that's because we're constantly investing more money to market your listings and everything to our consumers. All right. So what do we do when we work Smart Leads or any leads really? Well, what you got to do is you got to work on lead management, and that's what we're going to talk to our guest speakers about is what they do to manage their leads. Lead management is when you're going to be building a relationship and nurturing these people until they're actually ready to transact. And I'm going to remind you, the industry average close rate is 1% or less. Managed leads go 4 to 6% and even higher from what you'll hear from one of our speakers. And the reason why the managed leads go higher is because of the persistence of outreach. A lot of agents, most agents only make 1.5 call or email attempts. Nevertheless, leads will typically convert between the 2nd and the 12th attempt, but not many people go that far. Okay, so we're going to get into the Q&A in just a second. I'm just going to remind you here, I have 4 guests with me today. They're from across the country. They have different levels of experience in real estate, all the way from 2 years to over 14 years. Each Q&A will last about 10 minutes. I'm going to be interviewing the guest. Then we'll have a couple minutes for questions from the audience that you can type in the chat. I really want to remind you to keep your questions for our guests focused on their strategies for leads. If you have general questions about the Smart Leads program, about availability, that kind of thing, you can save those for the end of the webinar to ask me directly, or you can reach out to me one-on-one. But I want to make sure that the questions that you ask our audience or our guest speakers are really focused on their strategies. Okay, and like I said before, the guest contact information is going to be shared with you. So if you feel like reaching out to any of them directly, you're going to have the opportunity to do that as well. All right. So, one moment, please. Okay, Jimmy, I want to welcome Jimmy. Jimmy, I need you to unmute yourself because I muted you, but I don't think I can unmute you, which is really kind of weird. I should have thought about that beforehand. So
how about that?
There you are. Fabulous success.
I'm here.
Okay. Technology joys. Okay, so please, audience, join me to welcome Jimmy Carter. Jimmy is a winner of our Master Sales and President's Gold Awards. He's been in real estate since 2010 and is currently a broker with Royal LePage Burloak Real Estate Services in Burlington, Ontario. Jimmy has a 9% close rate with his online leads, and that includes repeat leads and referral business he's generated from his leads. Okay, so let's dive into it. Jimmy, how are the Smart Leads different than other kind of leads that you've worked with in the past?
There's just more pressure to respond as fast as possible. In our case, we have about 5 minutes to accept the lead, or we lose it and it goes on to the next person.
Absolutely. And, you know, I can see when I did some digging, I looked up Jimmy's stats, and his average response time is an impressive 2 minutes, which is fabulous because we know that speed of response is one of the keys. So Jimmy, tell us what you do when you reach out to your leads.
Yeah, as soon as the lead comes in, I respond with a templated email with some detail on the property they asked about and offer to set up a showing. Basically, if I don't hear anything back within about a day, I'll start sending them similar listings in that area.
That is a fabulous idea, Jimmy. Where did you figure that one out?
Just basically through the Royal LePage training.
Okay, great, great. So I love that Jimmy has done our training. If you guys haven't done our training, I'll show you where you can access some of those materials. Okay, so Jimmy, what do you do when you get a repeat lead from the same person?
So the big thing about that same lead coming in again on a different property is that they don't know who it's going to. So in that case, I don't respond to them about their request specifically. Instead, I send a couple listings and include that one. That way it looks like I found it for them and makes them more likely to start requesting information from me directly.
Oh, that's a fun idea. It makes them think that you can read their mind almost, right? How did Jimmy know I was interested in that house?
Magical.
Absolutely. That's a great idea. Okay, so what is the longest that you've nurtured a lead that has closed?
At this point, the longest would be probably about 3 to 4 months, I would say.
Okay. So you've been lucky because some of them take a lot longer than that. So how long do you nurture a lead before you just kind of stop and say, I'm not doing this anymore?
I guess I'm kind of looking at it if there's no real response. So likely up to about 4 or 5 months if they haven't responded. At that point, I'll taper off, but still send a couple new listings occasionally.
That's a great idea because you never know. Maybe they, they will get an interest later on. Okay, so what do you say people need to have to be successful when they're working online leads?
Definitely a smartphone and a really positive attitude. It can get pretty frustrating when there's no response, but just focus on the bigger picture and understand that not all leads will turn into a purchase or a sale.
Absolutely. I mean, as we shared the stats, well-managed leads are 4 to 6 or higher. Yours is at about 9%, so that means 91%. Nothing happened, but you didn't let that get you down.
That's it.
Okay, so what about a lead that is already working with an agent? As everyone knows, on our forums, we ask them, are you working with an agent? Nevertheless, we get people sometimes that are already working with an agent. What do you do?
Yeah, there's definitely been a few of those, but obviously not ideal. But I just let them know I'm here if they do have any questions, or if their current realtor isn't doing anything for them. So in case they want to switch at some point, then at least I'm top of mind.
I think that's a great idea, because the way I see it, if they're feeling the need to be hunting around online, they're lacking something, right? They're looking for something that they're not already getting. Um, so I've had some agents comment to me about the contents of the lead form. If they receive a lead and it just has the sort of the canned email, I would like to know more about this property. And they've told me before, well, they can tell how good of a lead is based on the contents of the form. Would you agree with that? Can you tell how good a lead is based on the contents?
Not really. I mean, I've had leads that included lots of detail and never responded to anything, and others that had zero detail but turned into a sale or a lease. So I just follow up with everyone just the same.
That's great. Okay, so what about, I love that you mentioned lease there. Another thing that I've heard from some people is they don't like rental and lease leads. I've had some agents tell me they don't like dealing with those because there's, honestly not a whole lot of money to be made on those usually. How do you feel about those kind of leads?
Yeah, obviously it's quite a bit less, but you never know what it might turn into. Actually, one of my leads were looking for a rental and brought her parents along to the showings, and her dad ended up buying one instead and rented that to her. And actually, she ended up moving out a few months later, and he called me to get that leased out as well.
Okay, so the bigger picture, I love that. Yeah, it can absolutely turn into more. Um, okay, so I see we're already getting a couple questions. This is great. If other people have questions for Jimmy, throw them in now because I'm going to wrap it up with him soon. My last question that I have for Jimmy is, do you have other tips for an agent who's thinking about working with online leads, or maybe an agent who's already working with leads but is struggling a bit?
The biggest thing is response time and follow up. Just keep sending similar listings to add value and just stay top of mind.
Love it. Thank you, Jimmy. Okay, so let's see here. I see a couple questions from the audience. We have this one. Do you use video email? And that is from John Carr.
I do not.
Oh, you do
I'm very
not.
low on tech in that.
You are low on tech. No worries, Jimmy. Maybe you'll give it a shot.
I should.
We do have partnerships with BombBomb and Videolicious, so they say that those get higher open rates than non-videos.
Yeah.
Okay, we have another question. How do you continue to reach out if they only give us an email and no phone number? And that's from Anna Russell.
So the one thing I guess I guess I don't know what platform everybody uses, but we use Matrix. So if we send them listings, if we create an account basically and send them listings, we can see if they open it. But yeah, if they don't open it, we have no other way to contact them
Yeah,
if they don't provide a phone number.
absolutely. Yeah, so you just send them emails. That's how you continue to outreach. Okay, I got two more questions here, and then we'll wrap up with Jimmy. We have one question. What are the demographics of the leads that you've been receiving? And that's from Asia Glover. So do you
Yeah.
notice any kind of consistent demographics?
Say if I had to kind of narrow it down, likely first time home buyers, probably anywhere between 25 to 35, I guess.
Okay, okay. Um, Okay, and then the last question that we have, and it's about the question of people working with another agent. The question is that not interfering with another agent's client if you ask when they're working with a realtor and they say yes, and you continue to correspond with them? And that's from Lori Johnson.
I guess, I mean, it is a tricky one, I guess. So, I mean, in some cases they might say yes, and they might not be actually. So at least I'm just giving them that out, that if they're not, if they decide to walk away from that, there's other options.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to clarify for Lori, what Jimmy said was when people tell him they've been working with, or that they're working with an agent, he just told us that he lets them know he'll be there for them if it doesn't work out. So I don't think Jimmy said anything about continuing to outreach with them. He just said that he lets them know they can reach out to him if they want to. Is that correct, Jimmy?
Yeah.
Perfect. Oh, and I have one good comment that I just want to share is, you know, to ask the person, is your relationship in writing with the agent? That's a very good point, because unless they've actually signed the dotted line, you're not technically stepping on anyone's toes, right? So, okay, great. So I'm going to have to wrap it up with Jimmy. Thank you so much, Jimmy. This was fabulous, really fun. Thank you for joining us. If anyone has other questions for him, jot down Jimmy's contact info and you can reach out to him directly. Okay?
Sure. Thanks a
Thanks,
lot.
Jimmy. All right. So now I'm going to be welcoming Amber to join us. And Amber, you're going to have to unmute yourself. I can mute people, but I can't undo it, apparently. There you are.
I'm here, yeah.
All right. Thank you for joining us today. So, everyone, please help me welcome Amber Unique. So Amber's pretty new in real estate. She's been in real estate since 2015, licensed since 2012, and is currently with Royal LePage Wolestencroft in Langley, BC. Amber has a very impressive close rate with her online leads, and she's new to BC, so that's why she decided to work Smart Leads in addition to other lead generation venues. She's done door knocking. She did new construction leads as well. All of this to build her book of contacts in a new town. So let's dive in there. Tell us what you do when you reach out to leads, Amber.
Well, for the RLP leads, I basically just situate myself in front of a computer so that I can see the property that they're looking at or inquiring about. And then I try to call them immediately. Sometimes they don't leave a phone number or they've left an incorrect phone number. So I email them and then try to reach out that way.
Absolutely. And I think you also told me one of the things you feel may have helped your success is you try to get people face to face as soon as possible.
Oh, yes, for sure. So as soon as I actually get a hold of them or get some kind of response, then I try to set up like a coffee meeting or something.
That, and I think that helps a lot, because then they can actually connect with you on a better, deeper level if you can get them face to face.
Yeah, just on a personal level for sure.
Okay, so do you use a CRM when you work your leads?
Yes, I use HubSpot because it's free, and then I use Google Calendar for reminders and to set appointments.
That's fabulous. I love Google Calendar. I use it for everything, personal and professional.
Me too.
Okay, so when you reach out to the leads, do you follow any kind of structured outreach plan?
I really don't. I kind of create a to-do list like as I go along, and I pulled some ideas from the RLP 45-day online lead action plan that's in the Smart Studio. But overall, I just kind of go with what feels natural.
And that's great. We've set out that plan as a way to help guide people, but I definitely want to encourage people to personalize and make it feel your own. So I love that you have done that. Okay, one thing that I've heard from some agents that can be a bit of a pain is when the lead reaches out to you or fills out the form, but they think that they're actually reaching out to the listing agent. and that's not, because it's a distributed lead. It's a competitor listing. So has that ever happened to you, and like, how do you deal with that?
It actually did happen once. And then, I mean, with rules in BC, I'm not sure how they are everywhere else, but I just stated that it was best he had his own representation because he did want to talk directly to the listing agent. So I advised him that it would be best that he had his own representation, but he didn't want it. And so I actually just gave him the information for the agent and said that, basically just said, if you need any more help or anything, you need some advice, reach out, let me know.
Absolutely. On a side note, I was chatting with a manager from one of our other offices about this challenge, and what she told me, when she talks to leads who sometimes they get angry if it's not your listing. How dare you? You know, because they're confused or whatever. But what they do is they explain that other people like to advertise on our site. We share data, and other brokerages like to use our site because they know what great reach we have. So they're basically piggybacking on our marketing and reach abilities. So, you know, that's something that people can use if you encounter that challenge with a lead going, well, I thought I was reaching out to the listing agent. What are you guys doing? You explain to them, well, they're piggybacking on our huge reach. Okay, so
these leads are actually coming in from the Royal LePage Canada website, right?
absolutely, everyone is coming from royallepage.ca.
Yeah, so I always just advise my leads, like, I received your information because you were on the Royal LePage Canada website and must have been searching properties in my area.
So how long do you nurture a lead before you stop?
It really just depends on if I'm getting any kind of response from them. So I've nurtured, like, I'm nurturing one now. It's been 3 months. I'm not, really sure where that's going to go, but as long as necessary. If I stop getting responses, or maybe a couple of months.
All right. I think you told me about one that you got about a year ago that you're still working on.
Yes. I'm trying to remember which one I told you about.
That's okay. Well, what about, you told me about Doug. Doug is a fun story. Doug that came in February. Can you share that little story?
Oh yeah, so that's the one that I've been working with for March, April, I guess going on 3 months now. And he actually inquired about a property, and when I reached out to him, he was surprised because he said that he never had anybody get back to him.
Oh. Yeah.
So he was willing to meet me in person, and we looked at the property that he was inquiring about. It ended up actually already having an offer on it. But him and I have stayed in touch, and I'm hopefully listing their townhome and then helping them find a bigger townhome.
Oh, so he came in looking to buy, but now you're going to actually be representing him to sell.
I think he was looking to do both.
Okay.
So they want to kind of find something before, to make sure that they want to move, kind of thing. So he was just looking around, but he had put it out a lot of requests and never ended up getting anybody responding to him.
Beautiful. Okay, I have a couple of stories, but I'm gonna jump. I would love if you could share. Could you share the Linda and Gary story that took about 6 months?
Oh, well, yeah, it took 6 months from beginning to end. So they had reached out about a property, wanting to see it. When I tried to call them, it was an incorrect number. So I emailed them right away, and she actually was still online. And so she said, oh, sorry, here's my correct number. So she emailed me her correct phone number. I called her. Then we ended up getting face-to-face for coffee, and we ended up looking at properties. And they would have bought and then sold with me. However, they decided that they were going to move to the Okanagan. So they ended up going and buying in Oliver, but then sold with me. So yeah, it just took a while to sell their condo in our market, changing market.
Absolutely. That's a strange one, the way that one worked out, but I mean, it worked out well in the end.
Absolutely.
Okay, so similar question that I asked Jimmy before. Can you tell how hot the lead is based on the contents of the lead form?
No, absolutely not. Like exactly what he said. Sometimes they'll leave you all this information and then they never get back to you, and you could call them like 3 days in a row and email them and you never hear from them. Or they could just give you an email address, and then when you actually email them, they end up giving you their phone number. So
Absolutely. Okay. I'm just going to put a call out to the audience. Let them know if you have questions for Amber,
Sure.
throw them in there. And I'm going to wrap up by asking my last question to Amber. And that's, do you have any other tips for agents who are thinking about working with online leads, or for agents who are already working leads but struggling?
I would say just come from a place of yes. So why not try something new? If you're struggling with your leads, it's just part of the journey. You got to trust the process and have patience. Just go out there, be honest and helpful. That's all people really want. Don't sell them your services. Just be helpful and listen. Genuinely care about them, and they'll be able to tell that you are, coming from a place of honesty and being genuine.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Amber. It was a pleasure having you here. Let me see here. Oh, this is a good question that I think will be very useful for you. And it's, how do you get them to trust you? And that question is from Mercy.
I try to get them face to face because I want them to see me and see that I am honest and trustworthy. And I listen to them, and I hear them. So I think actually listening to them and then kind of reiterating what they've told you proves that you were listening, and maybe that, that you're trustworthy. Yeah.
Fabulous. Fabulous. Okay. We have another question. Is the 29% of leads direct from RLP or combined with other lead services?
No, that's a good question, because it seems like it's really high. So I'd love to answer that. It's actually just from the Royal LePage leads. And to give them a better idea, Stephanie, what did I accepted? Do you know that number offhand? 7 last year?
Yeah. So you've closed 2 out of 7 and you have 1 hot one.
That's right.
Yeah.
So I come from an office that has 200 agents, and probably for the most part, a lot of them are in this program. So it's very rare that I actually get an opportunity to accept a lead. And sometimes those leads come in super late at night or early in the morning, or I'm not by a computer. So I don't accept them because I can't service them right away. But the ones that I can, I accept. I get on them right away, try to meet them face to face, and it's just worked out. I mean, maybe if I accepted, there was less agents in my office and I was accepting more leads, my closing rate would maybe be a lot less, right? I've just had luck with the ones that I have accepted.
Well, I think you've had a combination of luck and doing the right behaviors. Absolutely. Because, there would have been people that they call an incorrect phone number and they give up right away. Or, working with somebody who says, well, actually, no, I need to do renovations. And they just say, well, call me when you're done, and forget to stay in touch. So
that's true.
You are definitely poised to keep doing quite well. Okay, so thank you, Amber. Fabulous. Okay, so I'm going to wrap it up with Amber, and we will be bringing on Justin next. Thank you, Amber. Have a great day.
You too.
All right, Justin, how are you?
Doing pretty good. How are you, Steph?
I am okay. I'm having a fun-filled day. I love having my guest speakers, and I love that you guys have such diverse experiences. So, okay, so everyone, please join me to welcome Justin. He's also pretty new to real estate. He's been in real estate since 2017 and is currently with Royal City Realty in Guelph, Ontario. He has a 10% close rate with his online leads, and he's working the leads to grow his business as well as accessing his referral network with skills learned from Buffini. Okay, so Justin, prior to working with the online leads from your brokerage, what kind of experience did you have with leads?
I really didn't have any at all. To the point where I really didn't even know what a lead was, and got it all from just the RLP training.
Okay, great. So you were a blank slate, starting fresh. So tell us what you do when you reach out to your leads.
So I try and contact them as soon as possible. Even if I'm not available to send them the information, I'll call them and say I'm in a meeting or about to go on an appointment, I'll send it to you right away. Is there anything specific you'd like to know about that property? And then I follow up with the information they requested, and basically start into the 45-day online lead follow-up.
Okay, great. So what else? So you follow the online lead follow-up. You use the auto emails and the scripts?
I do. I go through the scripts. I customize them to either the client or words that I would actually use, and set them up on the auto emails, and just basically go step by step, checking that Smart Studio every day to make sure I'm being consistent on that follow up.
I love that. I love that you check in every day. Not enough people do that to really make sure that they're doing the right things. Okay, so what's the longest that you've nurtured a lead, one that has closed?
So I actually, because I work in a tourist market up on the Bruce Peninsula, I get leads, a ton of leads in that area, but they're coming at the end of the year and there's nothing to buy then. So I've got some that have been there since October, and we actually have a closing next Friday for one of them.
Okay. So especially because of the cottages, it definitely forces you to remember to do the long-term nurture.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, you want to keep in touch with them over the winter and make sure that they're still there for you in the spring when they're ready to buy again.
So how long do you nurture a lead before stopping, like if they haven't responded?
I stick to that 45-day online lead program pretty well. That 5th contact attempt I find is the make or break. When you tell people you're cutting them off from the auto emails, either they respond or they don't. And then after that, I'll send the buyer template, those auto emails from Smart Studio, and then the kind of I'm here if you need me afterwards, but then I just stop with them after that 6th message. I just find that we don't have enough time to deal with those ones that just aren't going to get a hold of you.
Absolutely. So with those ones, do you just delete them, or what do you do with those people?
I close the lead and save it as a D client, and that way I've still got their contact info and stuff. If something ever does come along later, they maybe respond to one of my emails many months down the road and kind of look back and liked what I did.
That's a good point to keep it for reference. Okay, so why is follow-up so important? Like I've had some agents tell me, well, I just can't bring myself to continually email people when I'm not getting a response. I feel like I'm hassling them. Do you feel like you're hassling people?
I did when I first started, but I mean, I kind of thought about it in their shoes. I mean, we're doing that to say 20 different people at a time. So it seems like we're doing a lot of outgoing messages with nothing coming in. But from where they're sitting, they've got busy days, busy lives, and that's just not priority number one. So if we stay on that follow-up, stay on that schedule that the Smart Studio gives us, then we're doing it in good intervals and we're not being a pest to them. And when they are ready, then they'll respond.
I think that's a great point, that it may feel like you're doing a lot because you are doing a lot, but you're not doing a lot for the one person, right? You're just working several leads.
Yeah.
So yeah. So what do you think people need to be successful when they're working online leads?
Patience, I think, is the big one. It's because they're not going to get back to you right away. It's like you said, the stat is the 2nd to 12th attempt is when you might hear back from them. And just being consistent with that, the consistent follow-up and have that system and stick to the system.
Fabulous. Okay. Have you ever had a lead that was already working with an agent?
I did. It was I had to do a showing up in Tobermory, so that's about a 3-hour drive for me. And they went in, they looked at it, they ended up putting an offer in through another agent. And I mean, yeah, it's frustrating, but you just kind of take it in stride. It's a numbers game, out of what did I have, 68 or 69 leads, there was one of them that was working with an agent. So I mean, it's pretty small in comparison. It's just another one to add to the 90% I didn't get. Exactly.
Can you tell how hot a lead is based on the contents of the lead form?
Absolutely not. It's the lead form varies from the predetermined or canned response to something very detailed and somebody saying they want to make an offer, and there's no telling from that what is actually going to happen with that lead.
Absolutely. So, try not to get too excited if you see one that has a lot of details, because it doesn't really mean anything.
Yeah, don't necessarily shift all your focus to that one and forget about the others, because it could lead nowhere.
Perfect. Okay, so I already see there's a couple questions coming in. I want to remind our audience, now is the time. If you have any last minute questions for Justin, you can throw them in as I wrap up with my final question for him. And that is, do you have any tips for an agent who's thinking about working online leads, or an agent who's already working leads but is struggling?
Yeah, just know the expectations going in. If you understand that the average close rate in the industry is 1%, and you've got to get 100 online leads to make a close, if you've got that in the back of your head, you're not going to get super excited. You're not going to get super depressed when something falls through or something does happen. Our LP, we're doing a lot better with 4%. And it's just time management. Know when to drop a lead. Know when you're starting to waste your time on it. And like I said, after that 6th attempt, I get them out of the auto emails. I'm not seeing them in that list, and I just move on.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, so I have a question here from the audience, a couple questions. What is your Facebook lead experience? That's from Mercy. I don't know, Justin, do you do Facebook leads?
I do. I had to do a lot of experimenting with it, and it's a lot of. I found that I wasn't being direct enough on letting these people know that when they clicked on it to send the lead, that they were getting in contact with the agent. And I started doing more of that because I was getting so many leads. But once I filtered it through and I made sure that they knew what they were getting, then I was much more successful with those leads I was working with.
Okay. There is a question about what other lead generation platforms do you utilize? And that is from Gibram. So I don't think you use other lead gen platforms,
I
right?
really don't. Other than Facebook leads, but that's really there trying to sell the property or the listing I have. I work my referral system, calls, notes, and pop-bys to my database, and I ask them for referrals. I make sure before I end any conversation with, even if it's somebody new that I'm talking to, if you happen to know anybody thinking about buying or selling, I'd really love it for you to give me a call. It's looking back at my first 2 years of business, that's where the majority of my business was coming from. It was that and the online leads. And so I started to focus on that and stop spending my money on things that weren't bringing the business in.
Perfect. Okay, I have 2 more questions and then we'll wrap it up. How was your year 1 and year 2 compared to year 3 in terms of productivity? And that is from Nilsson.
So my first year, I actually was kind of in it part-time, but I did win a Rookie of the Year award. I believe I had 9 ends. My second year, I got a President's Gold Award, and I believe I had 12 ends. I'm on year 3 now, and I believe I've currently got 5 or 6 ends, and I've got 2 closings coming up this month. So I'm on track to probably increase about another 25-30% from last year.
That's fabulous. Congratulations. Okay. I guess, okay, I'm going to squeeze in another question because it's really tightly related to that. How many leads have you received in order to convert 10%? And that's from Samantha.
I think you have that number. Was it?
It was 60 something, right?
Yeah, I think it was 68 or 69. It was the high 60s.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's with me working the Bruce Peninsula. I'm the only Royal LePage Royal City agent getting the leads from our system through that. And so it's generating a lot of leads for me up in Tobermory.
Yeah, I mean, it helps to have an exclusive area like that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, final question. Do you automatically put them on a drip campaign regardless of whether you have spoken directly to them? And that is from Colleen.
After the 5th step, yes. Like with the buyer campaign, the 30-day buyer campaign, step 5 of that Smart Studio is to remove them from the auto emails and put them on the buyer drip campaign. It kind of explains what you're doing in that email or that conversation. And so if they haven't gotten back to me, I absolutely do that.
Thank you. Perfect. Thank you so much, Justin. Have a fabulous day. Thank you for joining me. Everyone who's watching us, you see Justin's info there. If you want to reach out to him directly with any other questions, you can get in touch. Thank you, Justin.
Thank you.
All right. So last but certainly not least is Carol. Everybody help me, join me to welcome Carol. And Carol, as I said to my other speakers, there you are. You are already muting yourself. You are on point. Hi, Carol.
Hi.
Okay, so let me, oh, that's not Carol, that's Justin. Okay, so Carol, join me to welcome her. She's been in real estate for over 14 years and is currently with Royal LePage Network Realty and Red Deer. So she's won a few awards, Diamond Award, Director's Platinum Award, and she has an impressive 18% close rate with her leads. Carol's always open to new ways to generate business, including smart leads and regular mailouts, client appreciation, and community events. Okay, so Carol, tell us what you do when you reach out to leads.
Well, I think the most important thing is to get back to them as quick as possible, of course. And then I try to get together with them face to face to establish a rapport, maybe offer them to meet for coffee, or I prefer to meet at the office, but I will meet for coffee if that's what they would rather do.
Okay, why is the office better than somewhere else?
Well, I like the office because we have a fantastic looking office. I use my office every day, and the closing rooms have big screen TVs in them. So if I can bring up property on there and the pictures, then they can see everything really clear.
Fabulous, that's great. What's the longest you have nurtured a lead, one that has closed?
Oh man, I think the longest one I nurtured was like about 2 years.
2 years. Wow, that's persistence.
Yeah. But you know what? They ended up buying through me. Then they recently relocated themselves to a much nicer, larger house. And they've just been great clients.
More expensive house too, I'm sure, which is
much
always
more,
good.
Yeah, much more expensive. And they're really, really, they will be the clients that refer you to people in their neighborhood.
Fabulous. Okay, so how long do you nurture a lead that hasn't responded before you stop?
If they don't get back to me and they ignore me for I'll go back to them for about a month on and off, phone calls, emails. If they just ignore me and nothing's coming in, I just let them go.
Yeah, you're a busy person, right? You don't have time to.
Yeah.
So what do you think people need to have to be successful when they're working leads?
Oh, well, I guess, the consistency there to get back to, I think as long as you get back to them right away and they can see that you're genuinely on top of it, that's super important. Again, to listening to what they want and getting back to them with those particular listings and not just throwing them just random stuff. Yeah, I think that's just letting them talk and letting them know that you understand what they want.
I love it, and I see a lot of similarities with your strategies and with what Amber was saying before about, she does the same thing and she really likes to push for the face-to-face as soon as possible as well. Okay, so that lead who's working with another agent, have you had one of those people?
Oh, yeah, I sure have. I have had people contact me to check up on their agent. And of course, I don't know about it until I go to book them in, or I go to check on the listing they're inquiring about, find out that it's got an offer on it. And then I find out that they were actually checking up on their agent because they had lost maybe too many properties. So what I do with that is I just give them all the information and hopefully, and I'll try and find out what brokerage. If it's a different brokerage, then I will just say, yeah, you know what, if you have any more questions, don't hesitate to call me. I'll look up anything you want and help them out in the future.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
Okay, what about lead contents? I talked about that with the other people. How do you feel about lead contents? Can you tell anything about how hot the lead is based on the contents?
Well, I guess, you should never just surmise that it's not a good lead because, it could be. But if they do not want to leave their phone number and they don't return your offer to call, I always give my phone number out. They can call me with any questions, and I encourage them to do that because if they see something that is maybe not on the system yet. Maybe it's a new sign. I'll encourage them to phone me so I can get the proper information for them. But if they just don't ever get back to me, and they don't provide their phone number, I suspect that they're not very hot.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a good point, and I would tend to agree that ones with phone numbers definitely usually have more of a sense of urgency of, it will likely close sooner rather than later. Whether the proportion of one's closing, we've done some studies in the past and we found that they didn't close at any different rates, but they could close faster. Yeah. Okay. How do you feel about rental and lease leads?
Well, you know what? I don't really do any rental or lease leads. If it's a commercial thing, I'd probably refer it to somebody commercial, but it can help me out in the fact that I have revenue buyers. And I have some really good revenue landlords that I know have really good properties. And if I get a lead from a good rental, like someone I know is coming in with a certain company, and I know that this will be a good renter for my revenue buyers, I have hooked them up and they have been very grateful. And so it'll do me good in the long run. And in some of those cases, that rental person may come back to me when it's time for them to buy.
I like that. I really like how you forged relationships with some of these other agencies, and you're sort of doing them a favor almost by throwing them these renters.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Yeah. They've been grateful for some of the renters that I have sent to them, and it'll only do me good in the long run.
Fabulous. Okay, so I'm going to remind our audience now. Now is the time. If you have questions for Carol, you can throw them in as I wrap up and finish with my last question for her. And that is, do you have any tips for agents who are thinking about working leads or agents who are struggling?
Yeah, I would say you just hang in there and take the good with the bad, because there will be some that are going to be duds, that's for sure. But I'm going to tell you, you could get some fantastic spin-off from the leads that you do get. I had one lead that I answered in like minutes, and the lady was like super impressed. She had been trying to get a hold of the listing agent for 2 days, and nobody got back to her. And I went out with those people the very next day, and I sold them a house that week.
Wow.
Yeah. And then about a month later, they listed their house with me. And I met people through that listing that I'm actually writing on a fourplex this afternoon with people that I met through that listing.
Oh, fabulous.
Yeah.
Okay. That's an exciting story. Okay. Well, I see we have a question here, and it is, do you use any other lead generation platforms? And that is from Puya.
I actually have a Facebook page. And that one, I'm not really Facebook savvy, but I have somebody that manages it for me. So I'm out there in that way. And then just, our regular advertising that we do at the office, through our Jumbotron, through, our House and Home magazine. But I would say Facebook is the most, online that I use.
And Carol, I really love that you put it out there and said that you're not that savvy, but you've delegated it to someone, because not everybody gets it, or not everybody has the time. So it's important to know when to delegate.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And, get someone out there that knows how to handle Facebook and knows how to put it out there, and it doesn't cost me that much.
No, it's one of the cheapest ways to advertise.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so I don't see any other questions coming in from Carol, or coming in for Carol, I should say. So I am going to wrap it up. And oh, good, we're at perfect timing here, because we are at 2:48 Eastern timing. So I'm going to tell our audience that you can jot down Carol's contact information, and if you want to reach out to her, you can reach out to her that way. Although, I see one question, just a follow-up to the Facebook one, and it's, do you use Facebook ads with your Facebook platform?
Facebook ads are a little more complicated than what you think. So yeah, I will have somebody on that too.
So, okay, so you use them, like you personally don't do them, but your
I
person
don't,
does them for you.
that's correct. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Perfect. Yeah, Facebook ads are cheap and they're a really great way to be able to really hone in on the target market for our audience out there. You can get right down to saying, I want to target people in this 5 kilometer radius that are, married and have a university education and make at least 100K a year. So you can do things that specific with your Facebook ads. So yeah, if you don't know how to do it, if you're like Carol, then hire someone who can do it for you.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, Carol. It's been a pleasure. Yeah, thanks for joining us today.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. So that was super fun. So I'm just going to wrap things up with a little bit of a summary from what we heard from people. So, the keys, we want to respond fast. Why do we want to respond fast? Well, you're 21 times more likely to qualify a lead by responding in 5 minutes versus 30 minutes. So always make sure you respond fast. I love when Justin mentioned that he doesn't even wait to get to a computer or device or anything. It's just as soon as he gets that lead, he calls them and he'll let them know, hey, I'm in a meeting, I'm on the road, whatever. But as soon as I get to a device, I'm going to send you details. That is going to help you immensely if you can respond quickly as well. Secondly, you want to make sure you're incubating your leads with your persistent outreach. So too many agents that I speak with, they forget the persistence. And I understand it's difficult to have that enthusiasm and to keep going when you're not getting a response from people. But the stats show us that leads are going to convert between the 2nd and the 12th contact attempt. And they can be browsing online for months before they're actually ready to transact and ready to actually talk to you. So keep in touch with them. Use a CRM, okay? Because using a CRM is going to help you track your progress. Ideally, you're going to be using our Smart Studio CRM because it has the great outreach plan and the campaigns that are already created for you. If you're going to use a different CRM, that's fabulous, but make sure you use one that actually has some sort of structured system, because without a system, you're not going to remember what to do next. Lastly, make sure you have a positive attitude. Everybody on this call today knows that there is going to be a certain amount of no's. So get used to hearing no, or get used to not hearing anything, but do not get discouraged from it. Lastly, why do you want to use smart leads? Well, it's great to build your book of contacts and grow your business. I've been told by people that use other lead gen sources that the Royal LePage leads are typically stronger. And that goes with industry stats, where we know that large corporation websites are going to have stronger leads than the standard lead generation, bold leads or whatever company that you want to hire for lead gen. They're great. They can get you leads, but I'm going to tell you the RLP ones are strong. And have no despair. Even if you are not getting the distributed leads, your designated leads are crucial. One of our local offices was telling me the other day they started really crunching their numbers, and they found that the vast majority of their leads that are closing are specifically designated leads on agent contact pages. So if you don't know what that means, let me tell you, the designated leads from your agent contact page, every single one of you has a page on royallepage.ca with your name, your contact information. But too many agents don't complete those. So they have incomplete profiles that don't have photos, that don't have summaries, that don't tell the consumer anything about what you are. But those are some of the leads that are most likely to close. But you need a complete contact page. So number one, when someone's looking for an agent and they search for, somebody who specializes in, I don't know, commercial listings in Gander, Newfoundland, if you don't have that in your profile, then no one's going to be able to find you. So if you can do one thing today, make sure you have an up-to-date profile. Okay, I want to show you this. This is kind of a lead summary of what you do in Smart Studio when you close a lead. So you want a lead, and this kind of follows out your steps. Okay, so though this is in Smart Studio, you can apply these principles to any CRM that you use. Now, even with one that is not answering, don't give up, right? So we had someone here mention that when they get someone and they follow all the steps and they do it just like this, where they upgrade the client to a grade D, and then they save them for future references. Well, I'm going to take it one step further, and I'm going to say save them for email blasts. Invite these people to open houses. Stay in touch. Send them holiday cards. Let them know that you are top of mind. Okay. Now, if these diagrams sparked your interest, if you thought it was cool, you want to know more about how to work your way through those flowcharts, I'm going to suggest that you check out my past webinars. And specifically, those flowcharts are one called Follow Your Leads Through Smart Studio. And that's where I broke it down really step by step of what you do, what you ought to be doing when you're working your leads. And though it uses Smart Studio as the example, you can apply it to any CRM that you use. But I also want to remind you that I have other webinars available as well. So we can see today's is number 9. There's 8 past ones that I've done. They're all fabulous, and they all focus on different aspects of working your leads. Okay, so here's our peer contacts. In case you did not get a chance to jot them down before, here they are again. I'm also going to send you a copy of this webinar, so don't worry about kind of taking notes or whatever. You can get all this later, but feel free to reach out to them. They know that you may be reaching out to them. And lastly, I'm just going to put up the contact information for customer care. So customer care is the one to help you if you need help with Smart Studio, if you want to get in, start exploring the possibilities and what you can do with it to nurture your leads. You can reach out to customer care with specific tech questions, or you can have a look at the various tools and training provided by our learning services team. So I'm going to stay on for a couple minutes, see if there's any questions that will come up. I'm going to thank all of you so much for joining me today. This was a really fun presentation. I enjoyed having my guest speakers. They were really fun, interesting, diverse group, and I hope that you've, been inspired by this. Thank you so much. So like I said, I'm going to stick around for a few minutes and see if there's any questions coming in. If I missed any that you threw in earlier into the chat and I didn't reply, can you just re-enter the question, because I may have missed one or two. And I will be, like I said, I'm going to be emailing you a copy of this webinar, so you'll get it in your inbox in probably about 20 minutes, half an hour. Okay, well, I see lots of lovely thank yous coming in. You're welcome. I really enjoy the training. I really wish all of you the best of luck, and I know you can do it. You just need to stick with it. So stick with it. Don't give up. These things take time. So exercise persistence, and you will have great successes as well. Have a lovely day. Take care, and I will see you on the next webinar.